Hello everyone, this is Jerry Stone. It's been a little while. I remember saying in my last video, or a couple videos back, that, oh yeah, school year is starting, so I'm gonna get less busy. Yeah, right. I don't know why I even said that. That statement makes no sense. No, I have been just as busy, so apologies for not making the videos, and I can't make any promises, but we'll see what I can do. I got a bunch of new radios, and we're going to hopefully do a little pretty simple restoration today, so let's take a look. So here's some of the stuff I got. I don't want to show all this in too much detail because I'm going to be showing it in future videos, and I want some of it to be a surprise, but here's a bit of a sneak peek. We got these nice G tabletops, and a Philco 38116. Yeah, this is kind of going to be the centerpiece of my collection now. If you're not familiar with the set, this is one of the nicest radios Philco ever made. Basically short of the 38690. It has a 15-tube chassis. It costs, adjusted for inflation, like $5,500. And yeah, I got it for $65 along with a spare chassis, which is in here for it. And yeah, it has the automatic tuning. Needs a bit of repair, but we'll make a video on this soon. But no, this has magnetic tuning, basically AFC, and just all sorts of stuff. It has this giant, like, 20-inch concert speaker, the acoustic clarifiers, which might do something, but even that giant speaker on its own is going to sound amazing. So you bet I'm going to mod this so it can work on radio and an audio input, but it'll be a non-destructive modification. I think I can run the wire out of one of the holes in the chassis. But what we're working on today is going to be in this box. Alright, so I got all these radios from the Colorado Radio Collector's annual auction, except for the two old battery sets, which were graciously donated to me, along with all the O&As. Thank you again. This is the final thing. So this box contains three, like, mid-century General Electric clock radios. They're basically the same thing. This is, like, white, kind of a, I don't know, like a tan color. And then this black one, which is really cool. It doesn't actually have numbers on the face. It looks a bit older, or just used a different telecron movement. All of them have the tiny little switches on, but this one's missing a knob. I hope it's in the bottom of the box, but I already know it won't be, because life can't be that easy. So today we're going to work on this white one, and I'm going to show you guys some PC board soldering. So let's go. I would both recommend this as a first radio and not really. Here's my reasons. So this is a nice set, but it does use a PC board. Early PC boards are prone to failure. You have to be careful. You need to know how to do PCB and PC board soldering, or you're not going to have a good time, because traces are thin and they lift. But one of the benefits of working on a radio like this is basically everything in here. There's the big electrolytic, and then there's maybe across the line cap, grounding cap. The rest are ceramic disc capacitors, which you don't need to worry about. So I also got an isolation transformer. It's this little Heathkit unit in the back. Let me show you guys here. So nice transformer. I disabled the front outlet because it was all shattered. I ran into a power strip. So this is actually set at 110 volts, so the line voltage that these radios would see. So there we go, and we're gonna test this one out. So this one actually kind of still works. Tons of filter hums, so we're not gonna run it for very long.
So we're getting over a touchdown for what is.
Okay. Well, and the telecron movement works, which is good. So yeah, that hum sounds like a AA5 filter hum. So something I want to quickly go over before we start is I've kind of noticed In earlier super heterodyne circuits, filter hum can sound a little bit different than this. This is usually filter hum in the earlier sets that I've kind of experienced with don't garble the sound as much as this, but these also older caps don't fail in the same way that these do, because these are built cheaper. And I don't know. Again, might just be me. Anyway, let's get the back off this radio. Now, as you may or may not know, I'm not the hugest safety person, but since this channel has grown, I'm trying to be a bit more, trying to set a good example. I can't be like horribly reckless anymore. So, yup. Alright. Screws are out, so now the back can come off. This has a safety interlock. I soon need to build a cheater cord, which is just one of these but loose. GE made this so that you really cannot remove this. Let's see. There's some kind of warning about it. The back is provided with an interlock to prevent dangerous electrical shock. Do not attempt to defeat its purpose. To replace tubes, remove 5 screws and 5 screws. What? There's not 5 screws in back. Okay. Let's get this chassis out. Alright, I disconnected all the wires. This is another thing that sucks with these lower radios. There's no connections, so I had to disconnect the 2 on the speaker, green and orange, so these guys. And then 3 from the clock, red, orange, and yellow, which just goes on the chassis. And then there's another red wire that was soldered to the top of this resistor, but since it works, I ain't judging. And nothing else. Again, maybe not a beginner's project because the bottom of these chassis are really cheaply made. They did not know how to do stuff. But yeah, this is just basically how it goes. So all we have to actually replace is this 2-section electrolytic. Oh yeah, these are fragile. I don't really like miniature tubes just because if you bend them the wrong way, the pin splits the glass and you have to spend another $20. So I pulled them out before, because even just taking the back off, I like bent one of, I think I bent the 50L6 and the 35Z5 or miniature equivalents. So I just pulled them out. They're right over here where they'll be safe. I just don't like miniature tubes at all. Okay, but we got the chassis out, so let's take a look. 75 microfarads, 30 microfarads, and our common negative. Alright, desoldering from these PC boards can be tricky. Luckily, I have a desoldering tool. This is like a soldering iron and a solder sucker combined. You don't need fancy tools to do this, although you do kind of need 2 things. Which is a soldering iron, which I just dropped on the floor. Soldering iron, this is my old like Weller iron, works fine. And a solder sucker. You can get these for like $5-10. They're really cheap. The idea is to heat up the joint and get in there as quickly as you can with the solder sucker. And all-in-one unit is better though, just because it's easier to use. So let me show you. Sorry about the shot. This is the best I got because I gotta actually like do this. So you see with little arrows, we'll work on this one. I have marked both on the top and the bottom where the leads on the can are, and on the top I put little letters to show exactly where. I also put a mark on the side of the can so I can stick it back in place to see what parts went where if need be. So we'll be working on this joint right here with the arrow. So we have our plunger depressed. The idea is just to heat up the joint and be gentle, be patient. Because if you rush this, you'll break the board. I might break the board even if I don't rush it. This process sucks. This process did in fact suck. For each of the 3 leads off of the main filter capacitor, I had to use the soldering plunger probably over a dozen times, as I'll elaborate later. But yeah, work slow. Don't work in fast motion like I'm doing now. But yeah, work slow and be patient because yeah, it's really fragile. And, I mean, take breaks. Don't hold it on there for too long because you'll overheat the board. I think that's about as good as we're going to get with that one. We can come back to it. So I'm going to do the other two. Now you see the basic process. You don't want to watch half an hour of this. All right, so I pulled the capacitor out. It took probably half a dozen to a dozen tries on each lead with the solder sucker, and I had to do some teamwork with the soldering iron, or the soldering gun, just because these are large traces. And overall, I think I managed to not lift any traces. Let me get on manual here. Here's the first trace, pretty good. And the second one, if you can see, there's a little bit of the edge of the trace that I lifted, but that's good because we can still use the rest of it. And then this one, this edge might have gone, but it's okay. So yeah, we're just gonna flow these traces again, put the new caps in. I'll show you how to do that. For replacing our 30 at 150 and 75 at 150, we have a 33 at 250 and a 68 at 250. So this is a bit high, this is a bit low. It doesn't matter. These late AA5 radios, you can just ballpark it. And with any radio, you can go like 10% on the electrolyte extender, and basically as much as you want up. Shango put like a 15,000 microfarad cap in one of these AA5 sets, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Okay. So we need to figure out, we kind of need to reconstruct this whole thing since we pulled out the old cap. I think it's time to detach our clamp. This is the pinnacle of radios. It's beautiful. You know, it's just, there's good stuff and there's this clamp. So looking at our board here, I put 3 marks where everything used to be. C, B, and A. Let me zoom in on that so you can see. Pun intended. Looks like an F, but it's a C. C, B, A. So now, theoretically, all we should have to do is see what C, B, and A are on the filter can. So if we take a look, we'll work our way down. A is common negative. So I'm actually going to write here, because I don't believe writing damages your board. A, common negative. And before we continue, I'm just going to stick, because the convenient line we put and the line on the cap, we'll just line it up and confirm that indeed this is where C, B, and A were. Great. A is common negative. B is our 75 at 150. And you can assume that your common negative, your caps are going to be linked together. Your positives, they're going to be separate. Watch some of my older videos as I go into this a bit more in detail. So B is 75. And C is 30. And double check, because sometimes these radios get really mad if you put these in the wrong way, even if they're polarized the correct way. If you go way over, some circuits you can overload and blow out tubes, overheat resistors, all that crap. We're ready to put it in. So now we have our 2 capacitors. I made a video a couple days ago about soldering, but I don't know if it's YouTube worthy. I made it for a friend. But keep in mind your negatives are going to go to your common negatives. So there you go. Soldering. So I'm going to hold the capacitors because underneath the board, you want to spread the legs out a little bit. It's not quite a tutorial. You can interpret this the way you want. I am not saying follow this by the book. Do what you are comfortable with. Do what you think is appropriate for your set. That applies to everything here because, safety and all that. So we are going to heat up the lead, not the trace, and let the lead heat up the trace, because if you heat up the trace with the gun, it's gonna just burn right through it. I didn't get tons of good video of desoldering it, but yeah, basically what I said. Just you got to be careful. It's just like the desoldering. Try to indirectly apply heat to the trace, and yeah, also don't mechanically stress the leads. Yeah, that's kind of it. It's like soldering newer stuff, but you just need to be more cautious. I'd also use a soldering iron, not a soldering gun, because you can burn out a trace a lot faster with a soldering gun. There we go. It's a point of fine balance. You gotta make a good solder joint, but you also can't warm up the trace too much and burn it out. So it sucks. Okay, we're gonna power this on, and then I'm gonna tell you how sketchy it is.
Work hard, invest your money in the market, and your retirement will be secure.
What the heck is it? I think odd out or rectifier wasn't lighting for a second, but now it's on. Is it? Or heterodyning?
Call 1-800-652. Try it and see how well it works for themselves.
So. Unfortunately, this song is copyrighted, so I have to talk over it. But there was one more thing I did not show on video, the audio output tube. It was bad. It was actually the wrong type. I checked it with the schematic on the bottom, and yeah, I don't think it was a gassy tube, but there was something wrong with it, because that's why the set was heterodyning. So the beauty of having 3 of the same sets, I just pulled the tube out of another set, and the other set, that's a problem for another day. So yeah, now the radio works great.